So what do you say to someone that maybe has that limiting belief?
I'll say it to you in Kentucky speak: hogwash.
I love it.
I mean, and this is why I'm super grateful for my SGI Buddhist practice, because it helps me anchor that reality that every single human being has unlimited potential and creative potential.
Hey everyone, it's Tony Will. I am so energized for my next guest who's coming on this podcast. She's fantastic and I can't wait for you to meet her. But before you meet her, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generations. Whether our paths cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world. And this woman is definitely one of them. Jenny Leigh Hodgins is a creative empowerment coach, author, poet, pianist, composer, and podcaster who empowers individuals to rebuild trust in their creative process, restore energy, set mindful boundaries, and cultivate sustainable creative expression and inspired living. Anchored in her long-standing Buddhist practice and over 30 years of experience as a musician, teacher, and coach, she draws from her own burnout recovery journey and her life as a solo caregiver to guide others with spiritual, creative, and practical strategies for personal growth and authentic self-expression. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Tony. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I feel elevated.
Good. That's the whole point. I'm doing my job. I love it.
You are.
I love it. So, Jenny, tell everyone how you and I came into each other's lives.
Yes. Well, it was basically very intentional on my part. I'm as a podcaster and coach, I'm looking for highly aligned places to collaborate and share my message. And your podcast came up on my search for that in the platform called Podcast Guests. And it really stood out to me because of your, your premise of what you just said, supporting other women, supporting young people, raising people up. That very much aligns with, what I do as a coach, what I do in my personal life, or what I aim for in my personal life. And as I've been listening to your show, it's really striking me. I'm very grateful to you and the work that you're doing, not only through your own work, in hockey as a woman general manager, but also, your new book, Rebellious Spirit. Is it Rebellious Success?
Yeah.
I think it's called, yes. And also all the different types and variety of women that you engage with, that it just really aligns with what I want to do. And in general, I really want to support people in building self-trust and building their attunement to their creative spirit based on really, and I'm practicing it myself, honoring myself and others as kind of the foundational part of that. So when I found you through there, I just pitched you, and luckily you accepted me, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that, first off. And we did not practice that at all. That's not how I roll. I just say we're going to have a conversation, and we hit record. So that means a lot, and I appreciate that. You'll be going in my gratitude journal tonight. So thank you.
Oh, that right back at you. Thank you. Make me pull mine out now.
So there's so much in your bio I want to touch on, but I really would like to, because this topic has not come up yet, what I'm about to ask you about, but I am so interested in, which is Buddhism. And I think it's interesting. So what does that look like? Why Buddhism? What are you drawn to in it? Because I know what I'm drawn to, but I don't know. I know enough just to be dangerous. So I would love to learn from you right now. And because this is the first time I've had someone outright in their bio say this is something that they're
really,
yeah. And so I want to learn from you. So tell me about Buddhism, what drew you to it, and how you practice it.
Wow, what a potently filled question that is. Okay, so in a nutshell, I was drawn initially to seek out something, and I ended up finding Buddhism. And I was drawn to that because of my background of very complex family dynamics. And that's another, I'm sorry, right back to you, but that's another reason why I even more appreciate and feel aligned with you, because you've been sober now, I think 5.5 years, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's amazing, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I grew up in a background, in a family dynamic that's very complex and has a history of alcohol and substance abuse, long story shorter. And because of that, and I was raised Christian. I'm in Kentucky, back in my hometown, Lexington. It's very southern Bible Belt area. I was raised Christian, but no matter what I did, in terms of seeking in that practice, I found no relief from my family's suffering, from my suffering. What really is, that middle child thing of their suffering was my suffering. So it basically was the catalyst for me to seek something. So I went on a journey looking at all kinds of philosophies and, spirituality, just tried anything. And I ended up in Florida. I moved down there in my youth, and I ran into my roommate's girlfriend practiced Buddhism. And she said something that struck me so, to this day. I remember her saying, in this, it's SGI, Soka Gakkai International, and I'll explain what that means in a second, but it's SGI Buddhism, because they're like Christianity. There are many factions or denominations of things. And she said, SGI Buddhists have problems just like anyone else. The difference is we're able to polish and elevate our life state so that we can kind of not be defeated by, but rather have a higher view of our obstacles and not be defeated by them. And that was like, whoa. So I went to my first meeting. I would never do this today, but I literally showed up at the first meeting she told me about it. Someone's home, knocked on the door, didn't know anybody, walked in a room full of like 5 people, and they were chanting the main mantra that we chant, which it's basically a vocal meditation. It's like breath work and vocal meditation. And scientifically, we know now that basically resets, regulate your nervous system. So it's really great just for that, if you don't know anything about the practice or the philosophy. But they were chanting this phrase, which is the basis of our practice. We chant, whenever, but really twice a day. It's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So when I chant it, I just repeat it, and I'm just going to say it. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and so on. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked into this room, these people are chanting. It sounds like bees buzzing.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing? But as soon as I questioned myself, I was like, this is bizarre, weird. What is this? But as soon as I chanted it, I honestly felt like I had come home. Like something in me just felt like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. So long story shorter, I engaged in the practice at a very young age, immediately kind of went to a lot of meetings. I ended up joining the SGI as a member. I've been practicing now for 39 years. And that philosophy itself, and my mentor, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, he's the late president, leader of our international organization, the SGI. He's a writer and a peacemaker, just an amazing force for peace and to help people practice Buddhism in modern day. So he's kind of, all of his writings have basically been what I do anchor myself on. And he, the premise of it in a nutshell, and this is a very huge, broad topic, but the premise of it is Buddhism, SGI Buddhism's premise is to fulfill the original Buddha's teaching through this, sharing this mantra and chanting it to uplift our life states so that we develop individual happiness, empowerment, strength, pulling out your good qualities, which is like wisdom, compassion, the energy of a Buddha, basically, which is your highest self, all those good qualities. And through our individual happiness, in some way contribute positively to world peace, which again is right back to why I align with your show, because you're kind of doing that in your own way, elevating women and talking about women in leadership, talking about self-trust. I like your point about mindset and how there is no scarcity. We are all unique. And that's basically Buddhism in a nutshell, believing and trusting in our own potential and honoring that in ourselves and others. So hope that answered your question.
It did. I learned a lot, and it makes a lot of sense to me why I'm drawn to it.
Oh,
And
yes, I can hear it in your, yeah,
yeah, I'm drawn
in your
to
content. Yeah.
that. Yeah, the one's higher self, but an abundance mindset versus scarcity. Uh,
Yes.
one of the reasons I quit drinking, the major thing was for peace of mind. And
Yes.
to me, that Buddhism speaks to that, like about peace of mind. And it's interesting.
Big,
There's
big
just,
time. Yeah.
I'd love to study it at some point. Who knows with what time? But I'm like, when I got a pro right in front of me, I have to ask. And 39 years is
Yeah. Yeah.
a long
It's
time.
significant, and it has pulled me through a lot, and it's helping me. It's never, I mean, it's endless. Obviously, we have to always continue to polish ourselves. But I will tell you, just and for your listeners, if you want to explore it, there's a great podcast that SGI puts out. It's called Buddhability. Buddhability,
I love it.
and like Buddha, Buddha ability. And that's a great show, especially for young people to connect or new people to connect, because it tells you a lot about people's experiences with it and how to kind of get started and what some of the basic concepts are in Buddhism. So that hopefully that'll help you get
That's
your journey
great.
started.
I'm going to follow it after we wrap
Oh
up
yeah,
this
yeah.
recording. So
Oh
thank
yeah.
you. Thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much. So you have a lot of labels, titles, accomplishments, author, writer, pianist, composer. Okay, let's start. Like, tell me out of what's in this beautiful bio. What do you gravitate towards? What's the thing in there where you're like, I love all this, but I am drawn towards this accomplishment I've done or this label?
What a question. Well, I don't know if I could say I'm drawn to one specific thing. I think it's an embodied, lived way of approaching myself in life, in that I've used spiritual practices and creativity to really navigate life, navigate struggle, navigate and celebrate milestones and joys, and work through things and find my way. So the labels that come out are just like everybody. We have all this innate creative flow in us, and I feel like it's through my lived experience of teaching and performing and writing and composing and all of that. And nature photography is now a thing that I love to do. I think it shows that creativity is endless, it's unlimited, and I just find ways to express it. And I'm very fortunate with the fact that I have, I don't know, for lack of a better word, the benefit of karma to be open to my own creative voice. I always have. And I think we can talk about that. Like, I know you're going to ask me what women inspired me, so I'm just going to plug for my mother because my mom is a self-taught artist. And she, for many years when I was in teens, she was doing all kinds of art galleries and stuff and selling her paintings here and there. And I'm now her sole caregiver. I live with her in the condo. She's 86. We just celebrated that. And her, just, I guess because she grew up on farmland and she was a DIYer, she just is so open to figuring things out creatively. She's an amazing chef, culinary artist, and seamstress and painter and designer. And I mean, she's just done everything. And her approach has always just been so open to it. And that's why we click really well, because I think I've by osmosis kind of genetically been influenced by that, And then, anyway, so I don't want to keep going there. Hopefully
You're
I
doing great.
answered.
No, you did. You answered the question. First off, what's your mom's name?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Minva, like Minerva, Greek goddess without the ER. Minva Hodgins, same as my last name. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she's
And I
amazing.
love it's hard work taking care of an aging parent. It
Yes. If
it's
anybody can
and you
see me, I'm sweating.
solo caregiver, like, so
Yes.
my mom
Yeah.
passed a little over a year
Yeah.
ago.
I'm so
And
sorry.
thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. And my dad was her caregiver, but it got to the point, she had Alzheimer's, and it got to the point where
Oh.
we had to put her in a memory care facility, and it was not an easy decision. But I had to go to my dad and say, Dad, and my dad's 83, and my mom was 6 years younger, and I'm like, Dad, I don't want to lose both of you at the same time, and because caregiving
Yes,
takes
it's
its
exhausting.
toll.
Yes. Yes.
So he finally listened to me, and we made the right decision. And we did it in partnership, because it's not fun doing that alone. But you are solo caregiving. So help connect this for me. Is some of your outlet in order to ensure you're taking care of yourself and feeding your soul through your creativity?
Full stop. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really the the I've always been a creative and teacher and leader and performer. Okay, I've kind of always been doing that, but it's in this last kind of chapter of my life where I had accumulated into deep burnout. I'm in burnout recovery myself, and it takes a long time to get out of that once you're hitting that wall. And you don't hit it because of one thing; you hit it because of years of accumulated habits. Long story shorter, so. Can you remind me the question?
If your self-care is it rooted in your creativity to help
Thank you.
ensure as a solo caregiver that you're
Yes.
not burning out again?
Exactly. Yes. So that's exactly where it was born from because I didn't come in up here thinking I moved back from I've lived in Japan and Florida and I moved back up here in my hometown to be in place as my mom's caregiver after my father passed, and I didn't intend to be the sole caregiver. I thought I was up here to help out while I'm building my online business. And when I hit burnout, I realized, and I'm navigating all these family dynamics and building a business. I published 2 books at age 60, and then I led the community as board president until I finally hit that burnout, and that's when I really awakened. Okay, this is not sustainable. How am I going to live a creative and inspired life if I am burnt to a crisp? So I realized, I have the full brunt of the caregiving on my shoulders, and that's been far more heavy and increasing than I anticipated it would happen so quickly. Long story shorter, we had a lot of things going on. There's a pandemic, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of things. So that's basically what pushed me into the awareness. It's not just about creative expression. It's about sustainable creative flow and recovery and energy management. That's why I've kind of shifted into what I do as a creative empowerment coach. Is not just about tapping your creativity. We start with, in my work as a creative empowerment coach, it's what I do for myself. We start with resetting my energy, and then there's things that I do to practice that. So yes, absolutely. I just realized I can't be a good caregiver for my mom for the long run by myself. Even if I had the support of my entire family, it's still the brunt of it's on me because I'm here. So in order to maintain that, in order to sustain it, and to do it in a way that is what's the word, enjoying the moment. I mean, this is precious time with my mother. As we all know, people aren't here forever. So in order to do that, I do have to practice what I teach, which is I have a 3-pillar framework of that. It's basically resetting your energy, and then practicing experience and research-backed ways to nurture your creative energy. And then it's, I have my own creative exploration formula for people that kind of wanting to get into it, or they're blocked, and how to navigate the inner critic, or how to just tap into your authentic voice and build that creative voice. So
Tell
long
me.
story, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm intrigued for a lot of reasons, because I think sometimes, and I've even broken my staff up this way in hockey, like we have the sales team, and then we have the creative team. So it's like the business side, revenue driving, and then the creatives. And I was in banking for 13 years prior
Wow.
to pro hockey. And what's
Wow.
interesting is I never thought of myself as a creative person, which is so far from the truth. I'm super creative, and I've tapped into as the seasons of my life have changed and shifted, and I want to know like this because I think people, I don't think I'm alone in that. Like some people are like, yeah, I'm just not a creative person. So what do you say to someone that maybe has that limiting belief?
I'll say it to you in Kentucky speak: hogwash.
I love it.
I mean, and this is why I'm super grateful for my SGI Buddhist practice, because it helps me anchor that reality that every single human being has unlimited potential and creative potential. So I think it's you know, I've talked about this a lot when people interview me, and just in life and in teaching scenarios. So many people come to me, mainly just adults, because kids don't really ever have this problem from my experience. Adults come to me and say, I have not a creative bone in my body. I can't sing. I have no rhythm, or la 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 la. I have no talent. That is just an inner critic thing. And you know, we may have to dig down into discovering where did that come from, and how can we reframe that, and how can we kind of move away from that. But the point is, it's not true. Like, and you've just exemplified that. You are expanding, and you talk about my labels and coming out in different directions. You're doing through your unique way, you've expanded from different roads, and now you're doing so many different things: book writing, speaking, interviewing, podcasting. I mean, you've just done a lot of different things, and it's still coming. So you're a great example of the answer to that. People, is when you start exploring it and basing that on a practice of polishing and building self-trust, listening to yourself, questioning yourself, talking back to the inner critic, digging a little deeper, finding out what's really challenging about that for you, you'll get to to kind of the nutshell of it. And then, I mean, I still deal with inner critic. I still deal with blocks or whatever, but usually when I deal with it, it's just a reminder that I have to go back to the basics of resetting my energy, taking care of myself.
Yeah, and so that's where I want to go next. So burnout recovery. So I've had people on the podcast have talked and experienced burnout. I want to hear your, and I believe you touched on this some, but I want to create space for it right now. What your burnout story was, and what your burnout recovery is now.
That's a good, deep question.
I go for it, Jenny. I go for it.
You're going right in there. Thank you for going deep. Okay, so I'm trying to keep it as clear and focused on your question here. So, as I alluded to, I've come from a complex family dynamic that has a lot of dysfunction, alcohol and substance abuse in it, and my response to that was to become hypervigilant and an overextender as a middle child enabler. And I am still working through, what's the word I want to use? Balancing that out, for myself. And so the history of that is just the upbringing, and then that kind of overflowed into, as a habit, into my teaching life, into my years as an arts and spiritual leader, and more recently in the community, the HOA community here. I ended up being the board president for through a very difficult period, completely turning a situation around without property management, and then getting a new one after a year, and taking our property from like 9 cents to $200K back in our reserves. It was just really being neglected. And by the time I was going into my second year of being on the leadership there, I had also at the same time, this is just an example of the perpetuation of my hypervigilance and accumulation of burnout. I was publishing 2 books, and then I rebooted my podcast and started building my online business. And right about that time is when I started to recognize and really awaken to a really important point for me, that I'm hitting burnout. And as I started to set boundaries with people, and I was doing that incrementally over the years, but as I set boundaries, there were some people who really resisted that strongly, and to the point of even attacking me, negatively, even to the point where we had to go through litigation, successfully winning it. But so through that whole period, that was like the hit the wall hard with years of this habit. So that awakened me to, okay, clearly that's what I said before. I've switched from just focusing on creativity to wake up to your own energy management, wake up to your own habits of overextension. And that's why I shifted into, I mean, I've done it to a degree, but as I got resistance from setting boundaries, it made me recognize it's because these people aren't familiar with boundaries. I have not been consistently setting boundaries. So that was a wake-up call for me. That's my main practice in the reset framework is staying in your lane. Your energy management comes first. Regularly resting, giving yourself space. Even from like now, it's one of the things I teach now because I'm practicing it, is asking, when someone's asking me for something, making a pause happen. Let me get back to you on that. Or let me think about that. Or coming back with challenging questions like, when do you need this from me? Or if I couldn't do all of that, what part of that could you accept from me? These are just simple ideas of me learning to deal with boundaries, basically. But in a nutshell, that backstory didn't happen right away. It was, like I said, rooted in my family dynamics. I basically learned to put service first, self last as a basic operating baseline, which is very common for women, and particularly Southern women, I think. But when I hit that wall, it was like a major, profound awakening for me. And so that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm still practicing what I practice. So,
no, that does. And I want to compliment you on the identity, terminology, labels, language, because I think it's important, of burnout recovery. That it's kind of similar to anything. We can recover. We can learn, grow. It doesn't matter how old we are. So speaking of age and being an author, 2 books, 60 years old. Did you do this at the same time? Like the same? Okay. So
same
why?
Exact period. Yeah.
Yeah. So explain that. What are the name of your books? Why were they at the exact same time? I'm in the middle of launching one and I'm like, I'm flat out on the floor. Like I said to my husband the other night, don't let me do this again. And he laughed and he goes, yeah, right. He goes, because you'll just say you'll do it anyways, which is
you're
true.
kind of unstoppable. Yeah.
Yeah. So share your story with this, because that's impressive.
Well, thank you. I think part of that came out of me wanting to resurrect and honor myself again. And so I have 2 books. One is called Kaleidoscope of the Heart. If you're looking at a screen, this is one of them. Kaleidoscope of the Heart is simply a collection of poetry and lyrics. And the story behind that book is that, and this is all the same time, I'm functioning as a community leader. I'm caregiving by myself in an estranged family. I'm rebuilding I'm doing it all at the same time. And the reason I started this Kaleidoscope of the Heart book was because I have many women friends. I'm very fortunate to have this amazing good karma that in every chapter of my life, there's always been at least 1, 2, 3, or 4, or a village of women who are true friends to me. And this one woman who, she doesn't want to be shot. She's very, autonomy, please. But she's been a lifeline for me. And so I decided, since she wouldn't accept, money or whatever, I decided, okay, because over the years, because I've experienced multiple losses, unexpected losses, and I've facilitated over 10 memorials and used my creativity as part of that, I decided, okay, I'm going to put together, like I've done before, pull out, and create some chapbooks from poetry I would gift people who go through loss, or I'd share it at memorials to help people through that process. It's just a sincere gift coming from what I can contribute, basically. And so I thought, I'm going to do that for her. I'm going to pull out some poems just to thank her for being an incredible friend, for really supporting me through this very grueling time. So as I started going through my poetry, my lyrics, I started it took me 4 months, and I was like, I can't even pick which ones to give her until I go through all of it. And there was like this endless pile. And then I realized, you actually have enough here to make a book. You could. And so for myself, I decided I'm going to create the book out of it. And that's where Kaleidoscope of the Heart ended up. And then I gifted her the book, long story shorter, for that one. And then the other book, at the same time, I've taught music and piano for 30 years. And so I decided to create a book, and I also have a course, an Essential Piano Basics course, but it's based on this book called Start Piano, What You Need for Successful Learning. So I just decided to take the common recurring questions from all these new and returning learners, put them in a book, and help people see what you need for a successful foundation, for mindset, for a foundational setup, and to continue a lifelong progress in your piano journey. So that's where those kind of came from, just as my way of, what do I have to offer? And then I decided, let's just put these in books and let's publish them. And I didn't actually intend for them both to be published at the same time. It just worked out that way because of my schedule. The piano book I had started a couple years earlier, and because of all my responsibilities, I kind of delayed it. So I decided through that same year that I was recognizing I'm in burnout, that was when I was finishing up all of these and getting them out there and published. This is actually the 2-year anniversary of that, coming up in June and July for both of these books. I just did it because it was like honoring myself, and in a way that also helps others.
Oh, wow. I'm curious about the piano one, both are beautiful stories, and congratulations on accomplishing, not one, but 2 books that you've created. And
not dying in the process.
Without dying and publishing. It's not easy. What is one of the most, one of the number one questions you get asked about piano or starting piano? What do people want to know?
Why do I keep making the same mistakes? Why can't I get past this plateau?
What's the answer? Read the book, Tony.
Drum roll. That was a great comeback. And I do have to say there are many answers to that question. It really depends on, But the thing I would if you're a piano learner or you want to learn and you're hitting a block because you just can't get it right, there are multiple things you can do. First of all, slow it way down. We tend to go way faster than our fingers can do or keep up with. So slow it down, breathe. And when I say slow it down, underwater slow.
Okay.
Keep it really slow and recognize, because when you slow it down, you can, sometimes when you're making these mistakes, you have no idea what's causing it. And when you slow it down, you're able to pinpoint where it's tripping you up. Then you can go in and dig down, like, what's challenging for me right here? What is it that's tripping me up? And then it's a matter of evaluating it, seeing what that is, and then finding a way to address it and practicing it correctly 3 times in a row, let's say, or 5 times or 10 times in a row. If you trip up, slow it down and go back and do it again. I mean,
Okay.
that's a quick response to that. Read the book.
Yeah, and read the book. Read the book. And there's people hate this answer. Like when I'm coaching my clients, I'm like, they'll say, Tony, what is, how do I accomplish X, Y, and Z? Or is this normal if I do A, B, and C? And I'm like, you're going to hate this answer, but it's different for everyone. And it's not a cop-out. It's just the reality.
It's absolutely true. Yes.
So you're spot on. And I will also underscore what you're saying, but in a different space. I'm in the middle right now, literally, of recording my audiobook in preparation for the publishing on August 11th. It is one of the hardest things. I thought writing the book was hard.
And you're doing it with your voice.
Yes, I'm narrating
that's great. That's great.
It's hard. And you know what I have to do? And what my audio engineer said? Stan, he said, Tony, slow down. Mm-hmm. And and it's hard because I want to blaze right through it. And I'm sure your students, it's like we just want to get it. And my brain cannot process the words in the order in which I wrote them. And it is fascinating, but it's hard. But I love the challenge. So I'm all for it. And I love that this is on paper, because people who want to learn how to play piano, they have a resource now that they can buy. And where are your books available at, Jenny?
Everything at my website, yourcreativechord.com. Everything's up there. Yeah.
So of course, yeah. So let's talk about because you've been listening to my podcast, and this is the meat of the podcast, which is, who are the women in your life that helped you become the woman that sits before me today?
Okay. I don't want to forget. I knew you were going to ask me that, so I want to remember. First of all, I've already mentioned my mother. I would be remiss not to mention her in case she hears me. But I will say again, you, Tony, because the premise of your podcast and what you are doing as a female leader and role model in sports, but also through your podcast, we need more voices like that. So I've listened to like a lot of your podcasts, and the variety of the women that you're introducing, all types of industries and backgrounds, but it's all around the same premise of lifting women up. So first of all, no, I'm not getting paid to say this. Just
no.
In case anybody's wondering.
No.
But
we lose money doing this podcasting. I don't make shit.
Not yet. You're on
Not yet. Yeah.
But I would say my dad's mother, my paternal grandmother, her name was Edith Miller Hodgins. She's long passed, but she died when I was 15. But, really in the chaotic family dynamic that I grew up in, she was the one person that made me feel seen and loved. And she really didn't say much to me. She would say, I love you. She would sit in the living room while I practiced piano. And when I'd look up, she would just smile at me quietly. She just gave me this warmth, about it. And sometimes she would say, that was beautiful. And we would take turns going to spend the night with her and playing with her dog and watching the Cincinnati Reds. I used to love, watching baseball. We'd go to the games with her, with my dad sometimes. But what she taught me about was kindness and steadiness and really unconditional acceptance. I'm so glad you asked me that question, because it took me back to that, because I had to really rack my brain about women role models, and then again, since I practiced SGI Buddhism, a lot of women friends and role models in my Buddhist community have been amazing, and two of which stand out to me are Terry Ellis and Barbara Sapilla. They're down in Florida, and they basically taught me how to become a more responsible, capable human being, and based myself on the practice of polishing my life through the Buddhist philosophy and practice. And even when, sometimes I remember having conversations with Terry, and her voice would get, she'd raise her voice with me, but I was younger, in my mid to late 20s then, but even when she was scolding me, quote unquote, I never felt like she didn't care. I really felt her compassion for me. So anyway, they just taught me so much about humanism and taking responsibility for your own life, and polishing your life to tap into and develop your capability. And then I've had a lot of friends like that: Ruth Ann, Melissa, Kathy, Linda, Tina. A lot of these people have passed away, and some of them unexpectedly. But Christy and Eileen, and some of these people I still stay in touch with. But like LaDonna, and like all these people have I just marvel at that, because like sometimes I pinch myself, like, what did I do to deserve such good, sincere friendship? And they will, especially Terry and Barbara, they will tell me what I need to confront. Like, I remember Terry telling me, you were arrogant. And I was like, what? But, she was right. And I had to reflect, and so those are the people that I feel like I wanted to shout out, I think.
Oh, it's beautiful. And what great descriptors of these women. So I felt like I was in the room with them. So
well, I want to say, it took a village to raise me.
It always does, doesn't it, Jenny? It takes a damn village. I'm telling you what. That's why I asked that question. So how do you lift women up?
Sorry. Well, I think too, they've instilled in me the belief that we all have that potential to impact other people. And, and that's a way for me to repay my gratitude to these people who raised me like a village is, what can I do to pass it on? How do I repay my gratitude? By being a good friend and leader to other people, right? And so I think for me, it's about starting with myself first, recognizing as a woman, I have a responsibility to other women. And I think that's, pretty much how I strive to do that. And in the work that I do, it's to bring people back to honoring yourself as you are. You don't have to change anything. You are unique as you are. And your creative voice and your energy and your ability to live an inspired life is all already inherently there in you. It's a matter of let's develop trust in that. Let's work on polishing our self-trust. So I think through my work as a creative empowerment coach, through just encountering, the women in my life, that was a weird way to say that, the women in my life in a way that honors them, starting with honoring myself. And I think that's something that it's a constant polishing, I use that word a lot, polishing, because my mirror gets dirty.
Oh, I love
and
that.
I have to keep working. That's a kind of Buddhist concept that we polish our inner lives, because if I just go out into the world without looking at my own weaknesses and my own, like the overextension, the hypervigilance, for example, that habit, it's not the fault of other people. It's how I responded to that. And so I'm recognizing, okay, this is something in my life that I have to polish, work on, counter. And through doing that, I can bring my best, when I engage with other people. I think that's a good way to lift other women up, honestly.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a hard question right now.
Let me hang on.
Hang on to your desk. If you could only recommend one book to my listeners, what would it be?
Dang, I had a whole list of books. Dang it.
Pick one of
them. Thinking about that. If I can only recommend one, because I had a list here that I was thinking about. Well, for the sake of time, I'm going to say there's a book of 6 volumes that I'm reading now called The Wisdom of the Lotus Sutra. And it's a dialogue between my late mentor, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, who was the president of SGI Buddhism, and several scholars explaining the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, the Lotus Sutra, which is what the SGI Buddhist practice is based on. And it boils back down to the philosophy of humanism and the belief in our own potential, and how do we bring it out of ourselves, especially when we're in a world that's full of suffering and struggle and divisiveness. It's a wonderful teaching that and dialogue about the teaching that helps us believe in our ability to overcome difficulties with our own potential, pulling that out of us. So that's a really good one. The Wisdom of the Lotus Sutra. Oh, and I could say, and if you want to read a poem, Kaleidoscope of the Heart.
There you go. I was going to say, and your book of poems with and you have some other things beyond poems in there. Was it you were composed lyrics, yeah.
Song lyrics, yeah.
Song lyrics, good. Okay, so as we start to wrap up, I want, beyond where people can find you, and I want to hear about that, but tell everyone what your coaching is and who your ideal client is.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Pull up a chair. Okay, so in my work as a creative empowerment coach, I really help overwhelmed creatives, caregivers, people that are in burnout, recovery, or if you're creatively curious, busy adults. I help people navigate energy, mindset, and creative blocks to really restore sustainable flow, build resilience and inspired living through a 3-pillar framework that I've created. I've basically designed these inspirational bookmark trios, and it still visually represents that process. Each bookmark really represents one pillar. Just in a nutshell, I'll go over it. The first pillar is, we've talked about some of these things, is reset, RESET, and each of those stands for, regularly rest, essentials only, stay in your lane, embrace what nurtures you, and teamwork. And this is basically a way to reset our energy and create a flow, to restore energy, for boundary maintenance, that kind of practice, and holistic wellness practices. The second pillar is my Keys to Nurture Creativity, or KTNC. And that's just science and research and experiential backed micro practices or habits that we cultivate to support inspiration and resilience. It's ways that are scientifically proven to boost creative flow. And then the third pillar is my own, what I call creative exploration formula, which is just, I just try to put a label on how I approach tapping into creativity or working over or through a block. How do I manage the inner critic? And this helps people move past their own lack of self-trust, engage with creativity from a perspective of self-trust and curiosity. So all together, those are the 3 pillars and kind of a practical roadmap, and it's baked into everything, all my digital products, my creative empowerment coaching program, all of that. And in a nutshell, I've even changed the way that I coach. I don't do like one-on-one, Zoom coaching, because first of all, I'm a highly sensitive person, high maintenance too, and an introvert. So I have redesigned it to be an asynchronous coaching program, which means, generally speaking, we don't have to book, one-on-one Zoom calls. We don't do that. They can my clients can message me video, text, or voice messages anytime they want. And then I tailor a personalized response at a certain time each week, and get back to and cover all of that. And then often it's just to refer them to what's already in the resources in the coaching program. They have the Creative Empowerment Workbook, they have the course, that I can just redirect them to that. And sometimes I'll create a new resource, or just, if it's something new, I might create like something new, or just direct them back to something, just a real simple, quick response if they just need something quickly. But the reason I do that is because, especially if you're overwhelmed, or you're in burnout recovery, or you're trying to train yourself not to overextend, this way my clients can message me when they need to, at the moment they need to, doesn't matter what time of day or night, in a way that fits their energy and style and situation. And I can take it, and in my best energy and time, cultivate a personally tailored response to get back to them, that is good for my energy, and so that I'm in my best form, to respond to them carefully.
Oh, I love that. That actually, out of all the coaches I've interviewed, this is the first time I'm hearing of this more modern thinking approach. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And it's new to me. I was just thinking about that as I'm prepping to scale up to group coaching. I'm like, I have to have the energy. I'm caregiving. You know how many wellness appointments are in caregiving, right? And so I learned about it myself from podcasts that I've listened to, and I decided that makes so much more sense, especially in this day and age when people are so overwhelmed by screen use, screen time, and appointments and all of that. So it really fits my energy much better. And anybody that's struggling for energy, it's way better that way, because it basically is tailored to your own rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're feeling energized. Jenny, this has been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your wisdom. And I learned a lot from you today. Yay. And I know my audience will too. And I appreciate you listening to the podcast as often as you have. That's really an honor. So thank you for that. Good. I'm glad. I'll keep bringing on interesting people like you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Where can people find you, Jenny, if they want to connect?
Okay, well, you can find anyway, podcasts, books, digital products, in my coaching program at yourcreativecord.com in a nutshell. And I do have if you really need immediate relief, I have a burnout reset guide at yourcreativecord.com/burnout guide. And if you just want to explore creativity a little bit, I have a creative empowerment sampler at yourcreativecord.com/get inspired here. But you can find all of that at yourcreativecord.com.
Wonderful. Well, again, congratulations and thank you for being a guest. And if you all are looking to connect with me, I'm not hard to find. The hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. And then everything else I'm working on, the big one being Rebellious Success, which is on sale now and will hit your mailbox August 11th, is at tonywill.com. And I'm on all the social platforms under Tony Will. 8 letters, that packs a punch. So until next time.